Hello and welcome to the Green Profit Academy Pros podcast. This show digs into the challenges in growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit. I'm Christine Era.
And I'm Steve Bousquet. We are the green industry experts in profit, growth, and leadership. Hi, Toney. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Steve. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I'm excited about this week's episode because marketing is one of the near and dear subjects to my heart because it helped me really grow my business and also get the right customers in my business and getting the right prices for our services. And so I just want to go over today's episode. We're going to explore how to invest your marketing budget for the maximum return on investment. You know, we all know I've spent a ton of money doing the wrong things to the wrong clients, to the wrong audience, producing horrible results. So, you know, you've really developed a way of really dialing in and getting the maximum return on people's investments so they can put the money in the right place. And so you're going to share with us today what you've learned. You are one of the largest lawn and landscape marketing companies in the country. And so how did you get to that point, Toney?
Well, I actually started off as a generalist agency. We started off focusing on any kind of business and realized that it's tough to learn every business every time you bring on a new client because every industry is different. You know, what we do that works for lawn and landscape is different than what somebody would need to do for like a roofer or a realtor, for example. So we wanted to be able to scale beyond what we were doing, and that became very difficult having to learn every industry. So we decided to land on lawn and landscape for a couple of different reasons. One was because there wasn't a lot of marketing agencies focusing on the space, so there was some opportunity there. Two, I actually spent a couple of years on a landscape installations crew, so I have some experience in the industry and know a little bit about it. But three was because we could bring a fast ROI to the clients, you know, especially on the lawn side, where you can run ads today and start generating customers that same day or tomorrow. So they start to see a return on the money that they're spending with you right away. So those are the three top reasons why I chose lawn and landscape as our niche to focus on.
Yeah, and I do love in the digital world, you know, instead of doing a print and mailing and waiting for returns, you can have an ad up today or tomorrow and you start getting clicks and calls right away. And that's really powerful. And you know whether it's working within a week or two, and you can either change and fix it so it's a little more dialed in. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about what drives poor or really bad results on marketing.
Well, there's several things that can contribute to poor results. First of all, you have to know your audience, right? That's the key thing for any kind of marketing, whether it's lawn or landscape or roofing or whatever I just mentioned there. You got to know who you're speaking to. You've got to create advertisements, creatives, wording, landing pages that all speak to that person and the reasons that they're buying. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we see campaigns that could potentially fail is, or have come to us and they were not working, is they're just targeting the wrong people. You know, in this industry of lawn and landscape, a lot of it is luxury based, especially if you're doing project work and doing large landscape work in like backyards, outdoor living spaces. That speaks to a very specific audience. Same thing if you focus on, say, the turf care side. Doing fertilizations and weed control, that's also considered more of a luxury service compared to like a basic maintenance. So you've got to make sure that you're getting your ads in front of the right people, but you also have to make sure that those ads themselves will align with those interests and it will communicate to them. You know, the imagery that you use, a lot of times people don't put effort into the images, the videos, the content that they produce, and they choose just basic stock photography, stock videos. And that type of stuff has just proven time and time again that it just doesn't work. So those are some of the biggest things. Also, investing in the wrong platforms for the wrong reasons. You know, like, for example, if you're looking to generate leads right away that you can actually close, running ads on TikTok are probably not going to be your best bet. You know, but if you're going for more of a branding approach and you want to get your brand name known out there and it's more top of the funnel type stuff that you're trying to generate, then TikTok might be the best option. So it's a combination of a lot of things that all have to move together in the right way in order to get the results that you're looking for. And then obviously these platforms do have levels of complexity to them. So even if you do have the right platform, the right ads, the right intent, right audience. It still has to be set up, configured, and ran properly. Your data has to be measured, and that data has to be analyzed, and then decisions have to be made based on that analyzation. So it's not about just having all your ducks in a row. You've actually got to have somebody that can execute on your behalf. And these are things that take years and years and years to master, and they're changing all the time. So if you're a business owner in the lawn and landscape space, utilizing your time to try and learn these platforms that takes 5 to 10 years to become an expert at is just not going to be a good use of your time. So you've got to have the right people on your team that have the ability to execute on your behalf, even if you already have all those other ducks in a row.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way to run your business on a day-to-day basis and keep up with all the changes that have occurred in marketing. I mean, I was just kind of laughing a little bit because you were talking about TikTok. If you said TikTok 6 years ago, people wouldn't know what you were talking about. 20 years ago, if somebody said Google it, they wouldn't even know what you meant. So, and there's been a lot of changes. I kind of pay attention to what Google does, and they've changed things, and there's just no way to keep up with it. And the other thing is it changes so fast, and we have to get out to our customers in a certain amount of time during the year. So, having a company to work with that is already ahead of the curve and, not trying to do it ourselves and trying to catch up or figure it out. If we're trying to figure it out and do it ourselves, there's somebody out there that's using you or a company like yours that is just, doing laps around us. So,
right. I mean, it's what we do all day, every day. I look at our service as like it's a professional service, right? It's the same as how you hire a CPA or how you hire your attorney, right? These are things that you don't want to take on and represent yourself because they're very complex. They can become very expensive. You can waste a ton of money if they're not done properly. So utilizing your time to try and handle something that you're not best suited for is just a complete waste of time, and oftentimes is not going to result in good results, which is going to be a waste of money as well. So now you've wasted time, you've wasted money when you could have actually got it done for probably cheaper by hiring somebody who knows what they're doing. It's going to be streamlined, it's going to be effective, because that's all we do all day, every day. Just like, the CPA that handles Lawnline Marketing's financials, that company, that's all they do all day long is financials. So hiring them is a much better option than me trying to figure out tax codes and how to do all the financial stuff. I'm not a financial guy. I don't know these types of things. That's why you've got to surround yourself with people and in teams and vendors that can handle these types of things for you.
One of the worst things you can do is try to do it yourself, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. And I've seen guys do that in the industry, get really bad results, and then say marketing doesn't work. And I'm like, it just, marketing doesn't work or you weren't doing it correctly, right? So it's really a matter of that. So if you don't have the right ad to the right people at the right time, then you don't get enough qualified leads. So you waste a lot of time going on appointments and writing quotes for people who should never be are never going to be your clients. And then it ends up being a high cost per sale, because you're going on all these bad leads, and the ones you do sell, it costs a lot more per sale because you're paying so much for all the bad leads, and it generates a low closing rate. So Absolutely. What are some closing rates that your clients typically are used to seeing?
And that's a great data point that we have a ton of data on. I can guarantee you should be closing your internet-based leads between 40 and 60% that you're receiving. If you're closing over 60% of the leads that you're getting off the internet, then your prices are too high, your prices are too low if you're closing over 60%. Or you have the best salesperson in the world that we've never seen with the amount of data that we generate. And to put that in perspective, right now it's October, and in the last 30 days, we've generated somewhere around 20,000 unique leads for our client base. That's between about 70 to 80 different companies. So we have a little bit of data to look at here that tells us where they should be closing at. And if you're closing under 40%, then you're either priced too high or there's a problem in your sales pipeline. So we can tell you with a lot of confidence that you should be closing between 40 and 60% of all your internet-based leads.
So that's great data to have. So whether you're winning, you're losing, you're on the right path, wrong path. Yeah, that's super good to know. So with this marketing that we're talking about, what's a realistic budget for people?
Well, at our agency, we require that we have at least $1,000 a month to work with, and that's what I would call a minimum for anybody in this industry. Because at $1,000 a month, these platforms work on a daily basis, right? So think about breaking down $1,000 a month and what that comes out to, right? That comes out to about $33 a day. So when you're looking at $33 a day, and let's take, for example, Google. The average cost per click across the country and for all of our clients is about $8 to $9, right there in the middle. So when you're looking at that, you're talking you get 3 clicks, maybe 4 before you get shut down. If you're in a competitive market, let's say you're in a major city, and you can easily be paying $12, $15 or more a click, you're talking 2 clicks and you're shut down for the day. That gives you very little data to actually work with. Very few shots at actually converting them into leads. Because keep in mind, another great data point for you would be if you're running search ads on, say, like Google, Microsoft ads, you want to target a 20% conversion rate into leads. That means when somebody clicks on your ad, you're going to pay Google for that ad. They're going to go to your website. That doesn't mean they became a lead. That just means that they went to your website. That's the traditional pay-per-click model. And of those people who click on your ad, we want to see 1 out of 5 or 20% actually convert into a lead. So at, say, if you have an average of a $10 per click with a $33 per day budget, then you're looking at generating 1 lead every other day. Right. So that means that you're going to be closing half of those. So you're talking about bringing in 1 customer every 4 days on $1,000 a month budget. And that's why I say that's a very minimum amount that we would want to focus on working with. And that's if you're just staying on, say, the Google platform. If you split between Google and Microsoft and you do an even split, 500 and 500, now that number just got cut in half. If you want to get into social media advertising, say Facebook ads, now that number just got cut again. If you are wanting to target various services, so let's say, for example, you're a company that offers turf care, doing things like fert and weed, but you also do, let's say, mowing and maintenance, and you want to run ads for both sides there. Now you got to cut that budget again. So the more that you focus on, the more areas that you want to go after, the more services you want to go after, the different platforms that you go after, you've got to have budget for all of those things. So typically when we see somebody come in with a minimum $1,000 a month budget, we're going to put it to the things that we know are going to get us the best results, which we can talk about these platforms later, but like Google local service ads is one of those platforms. Facebook will tend to generate leads at a lower cost. They're going to be a little bit lower quality, but the $1,000 minimum is what we see right now. I would say the average client of ours is probably spending this time of the year around $3,000 a month is where I would say the average is, but that's also going to change throughout the year because you want to invest more money when there's more people looking for your services. So when it comes around to the spring rush, for most of the clients in the South, that's starting up in February, running through to the end of March and April. For those kind of in the Midwest and Northern, those are starting usually in March, April, and May. So during those months, you're going to want to have a larger budget because the search volume is going to be much higher. The ready to buy intent is going to be much higher as well. So you don't want to get shut down. Even if you can't afford to advertise year round, save up your money for that particular time of the year because that's where you're going to pull in 60-70% of your clients are going to come in that one time frame window. So if you're working on limited budgets, then save throughout the year and only advertise during those times of the year where you're getting that big influx coming in. I would say during those times of the year, the average that we see, I would say on average, most of our clients during that time of the year are probably going to be $7,000, $8,000 a month, but we're also talking about multi-million-dollar companies as well. But I wouldn't even enter the game if you don't have at least $1,000 a month to work with. And keep in mind, that's just ad spend budget. You're going to have to pay a professional on top of that to run these for you. When it comes to paying professionals, for somebody that would offer an a la carte, say Google Ads management service, you're gonna see quality services starting in the $500 to $1,000 a month range. So that's why you really need to have $1,000 a month budget minimum because you're going to be looking at that to pay a professional to actually just run it, not including your budget.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up saving for the marketing. One of the things that we really allocate our marketing budget gets allocated all year round. So we have a percent every deposit that's going into our marketing spend, because we're going to spend that over about a 12-week period in the spring. Mm-hmm. So before it used to be a mad rush. How are we going to pay this cash, all this, the spending? But now with Profit First and having that marketing account, the money's there. So we're ready and good to go when spring hits.
Absolutely. And another thing I would add to budgeting would be account for your volume. Just even if you have $1 million to blow in marketing, and blow is probably the wrong word, but $1 million to invest into marketing doesn't mean that you can take on the results that are coming back from that. Our average cost per lead on Google over the last year for all of our clients is about $58 a lead. So now that's going to be including maintenance, turf care, landscape design, build, all of that. But $58 a lead, you should be closing half of those, which gives you a customer acquisition cost around $120. So think about how many customers can you bring on, and if it's going to cost you, let's say, $100 to $150 to acquire that customer, you can start doing some napkin math to tell you what kind of budget you should be looking at, right? And think about the time aspect of it as well. This season rush is going to last 3 to 4 months. So you don't want to spend everything in month one, and you probably couldn't take on the influx of business that you would have all there in month one. So think about spreading it out across that time and what realistically you can take on via operations, because that's a whole nother thing that you have to consider, especially if you're short staffed like a lot of companies are. Can you actually take on this much business regardless of whatever your marketing budget is?
Yeah, so if you hit a home run with marketing, but you can't deliver it because you don't have the people and the team to deliver it, it doesn't really work very well in the long run, for
Absolutely.
sure.
And you can destroy your business's reputation that way as well.
Yeah. So one of the things we've been working with some of our lawn care operators, the guys who are treating lawns, is to shrink their marketplace, keep their marketing budget actually the same, but just reduce their travel time. So we know, the average tech, if he's driving 2.5 hours a day, that's 5 days a week times 2.5 hours. That's 12.5 hours a week. So if we can knock that down to 8 hours of drive time and deliver 4.5 hours more a week, and but keep that marketing budget the same and tighten those routes up. I just had a lawn tech today. He came back. He did 203,000 feet in 6 hours pulling a hose. And it was because a beautiful day, super high dollar day. And it was because that route was just so tight. And so that's the kind of production we want to look at. It's not just, if we're stretched out with production, shrinking the area size, but, developing those tighter routes. So
absolutely. And that's one of the pillars to the successful campaigns that we were talking about earlier, where you see campaigns that may or may not be working well, is the geographical targeting. In most all of the platforms, you can drop a pinpoint and go 1 mile around that pinpoint. So it's not like just because you service that edge of town over there doesn't necessarily mean that you should be investing your marketing dollars into that geographical area. I'm a big proponent of starting your backyard. Drop a pinpoint over the top of your shop or your house and go 1 mile around that and just flood that area, right? I mean, it's much better to be omnipresent to the handful of people in your backyard than to just get a single touch point to everybody in your service area.
Yeah, the more touch points, way better. So share what a balanced strategy means. What does that look like?
A balanced strategy is, and I can actually share some visual documents with you as well that you can post into the group. But a balanced strategy is going to be focusing on the things that bring short-term results versus the thing that brings long-term results. So your short-term results are going to be things like Google ads, Google local service ads, all the pay-per-click stuff, even like your Facebook and Instagram ads, upselling, so email and SMS marketing. These are all examples of short-term results. So you put the money in, you generate the leads, you close them. But there's a problem with that, is that you become dependent upon those platforms, especially if you start growing your business very quickly with those, and you need to continuously keep bringing in new customers as you build your infrastructure. So you become dependent on those platforms, and then they can change something, and that can throw a real wrench into your business. So investing in long term is also a great solution. Long term is going to be things like your website, your SEO, creating ongoing content, building an organic presence on your social media, building online reviews, building videos for your YouTube and building up your YouTube channels, setting up retargeting where you're staying in front of people who have engaged with you. Now, you don't want to just invest in a long-term strategy either, because long-term strategies can be rather expensive, and like the name implies, they take a minute to get results out of them. Just because you start on an SEO journey today doesn't mean you're going to generate any leads from those efforts today, tomorrow, this month, next month. I mean, on average, we'll tell clients that depending on what your authority currently looks like, going down the route of SEO, I mean, expect 3 to 6 months minimum before you see the needle move. If you're in a competitive area, a super competitive area, you could be looking at a year before you start seeing real tangible results coming out of SEO if you have no authority already. So if you were to invest in just the long-term side, you're putting in all of this money and you're not seeing the ROI, and it's going to make you want to pull the plug earlier. So that's why I say you have to have a balanced strategy. You've got to make sure that you're focused on both the short-term stuff to build that bridge to gap the time between your long-term strategies before they start to work. So you want to have a mixed balance of both of them. Run your search ads to generate leads today, but at the same time, also be working on your SEO so you don't have to be so dependent on the ads all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other long-term strategies, right? Having your trucks that are painted really nice and communicating
Absolutely.
to your customers. And some people are still doing either printed or
Direct mail.
Emailing newsletters. You know, a lot of our customers enjoyed our printed newsletter, which we're not doing anymore. It just seems so ridiculous sending out thousands of these newsletters, mailing and putting stickers on them. Just it seems so ridiculous. So, you know, if they want, they can print out the electronic version of that.
Right.
So much easier. And also it enabled us to really dial in if there was a specific issue or challenge going on, whether it was a drought or a late frost or something like that. We could change that in the newsletter. Where it was printed, I mean, it was just pretty much done, you know, at the beginning of the year. And,
And
that
consider
was
your efforts as well that have to go into doing that, right? If you're printing it, you've got to connect with the printer, you got to connect with the people who are mailing it out. There's a lot of time in your efforts, and I'm a big proponent of time is money, right? So definitely think about how much effort and time outside of the money that you have to invest into the various strategies. Like Steve, I'm sure it took a significant amount of your guys' time to put together printed mailers and get those mailed out every single month.
Crazy amount of time. I'm laughing just thinking about it. It was like, you know, the whole all hands on deck to get these newsletters out 4 times a year. And it just, I didn't, you know, it was nice and clients enjoyed them, but it definitely did not, you know, give us a huge return. I mean, the digital stuff is way better. So some of the short term, and we'll go over some of the short term and long term. So short term, you got Google pay-per-click, Google local ad service, Google local service ads. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so local service ads is Google's secondary advertising platform, and it's relatively new. It's been around for a couple of years now to the general public. And this is where you, instead of paying per click like the traditional Google ads are, you're paying for phone calls and you're paying for the leads directly. So these are generally going to be some of your best leads. It's tough to break into the platform though, because there's very limited space in it. And they're going to do, the reason they call it local service ads and they have a secondary name, it's called Google Guaranteed, that a lot of people refer to it by, is because Google's going to vet you, right? They're going to run a background check on you as the owner. They're going to run a background check on the business. They're going to check your license. They're going to check your insurance information. And if all that checks out, then they're going to guarantee your services. And then you can participate in this program. Now, the cost per lead in this program, we typically see ranging on the low end, 10, 12 bucks. On the high end, we've seen it go all the way to 80, but I would say the average probably falls around the $30 cost per lead. What I love about the program, though, is that it's phone calls only. They have recently introduced a messaging option, but you're not paying for a click, right? You're paying for a contact, for a lead when this person reaches out to you. Another thing that's great about it is there's always junk leads in internet marketing, right? Somebody who wants to sell you a service, or it's a vendor, or somebody with, you know, they weren't actually looking for your services, somebody that was confused, whatever it may be. And Google actually refunds all of that money that's spent on those, where they don't do that in traditional Google pay-per-click ads. But one thing that is a downfall to them is you can't be real specific with them. So when it comes to targeting, you can only choose categories of services that you offer. Like, for example, there is no fertilization category. There's a weed control category, and there's an other category that fertilization will fall into, but that other category is a dark pit of other services that we have no idea about, right? There's also things that you have to dial in that you can't control in local service ads. Like, so for example, if you've ever ran traditional pay-per-click ads for fertilization services, then you would know that it clashes with in vitro fertilization, and you have to be able to put things like negative keywords and try to avoid various things. And with local service ads, they handle all that for you, but it's done based on Google's automations, their algorithms, their AIs, and you don't actually get control over it. You also can't get down to a 1 mile pinpoint. You can target zip codes, and that is all. You can't target radiuses, you can't target city limits. You get zip codes, and that's all. So LSAs are great, local service ads are great, but we also have trouble getting the ad dollars spent there. So just because we go to Google and we tell them, hey, we've got $10,000 to spend this month, Google may only spend a couple $100 of that and not allow us to get up there and compete, because this is not like pay-per-click ads where it's all based on the bid. The bid actually has very little to do with it. A lot of it has to do with your answer rate. So for example, you need to maintain an 80% answer rate. If Google's sending you phone calls and you're not answering them, they're going to pull you out right away. You want to be answering 100% of your phone calls that Google's sending you. But if you're not answering them, they're not going to show you, no matter how much money you're wanting to throw to them. If you're not booking jobs, if you're constantly always just disputing every lead and they come back as actual leads, they're gonna boot you out of the program. So there's only 3 spots for this. And those 3 spots are often already dominated by big players that answer every single phone call, that are very diligent about booking the services, that build consistent online reviews. Because keep in mind, your local service ad account is tied directly to your Google business profile. So as you build reviews on your Google business profile consistently, those are also showing up in your Google local service ads profile. So if you sign up in the LSA program and you never build any online reviews, Google's going to pull you out of there, because there's other companies out there that are consistently getting positive reviews from people in their Google business profiles. So there's a lot of other things that play into it, unlike pay-per-click ads, where you can just jump in, start bidding on keywords, and go to town.
Yeah. So, you were at the technology conference in Las Vegas, and you were talking about the Google local service ads. So I did some research on it. I got Google certified. It's quite arduous. I mean, you have to show a picture of you standing with your driver's license front and back, all your insurances, all your trade licenses, and all these other things. And one thing that, right, you can't just say lawn applications. It goes to landscape. But one of the things that's really neat about it is you can listen to the phone calls. Yeah. So you know what people are actually calling about and the length of it, and you can hear your team talk to them. And it also tracks everything. And we had a couple disputed calls, and they called for something that wasn't even related to what we were doing. And, I requested the dispute, and within 3 minutes they were, they said, yep, we're not going to charge you for those calls. So, but Absolutely. It definitely has led to, so ended up mostly for us being landscaping, in the zip codes that we worked. So, and I think it definitely got us in front of customers that we would have not been in front of for whatever reason, because, they're in, even though they're financially qualified, they were not in neighborhoods that we were working in. So it definitely was interesting. I would recommend you to check that out. Absolutely add that to your marketing portfolio.
Yeah, and one thing to note as well, too, Steve, you made a comment there that the calls are recorded, and they absolutely are. But one thing I would add to that is, whoever is doing your marketing, or even if you're doing it yourself, you should be utilizing platforms that are tracking your data. So like for us, we use a third-party platform called What Converts, right? This is not our platform. This is a third-party company, and that's exactly what they do. They track what is converting into leads for you from the internet. One of those features is they record every phone call. So when somebody calls you from your website, whether they came from a Google local service ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, organic placement, whatever it may be, that phone call ends up getting recorded, and the original source from that lead gets recorded as well. So you can end up going in there, and no matter where you're getting leads from, you can see all of your leads and go through and listen to all of the calls, not just the LSA ones. So there are options, and if you're spending marketing dollars, this type of platform is your GPS system. It's what tells you what's working and what's not working. And everybody who's spending money in marketing should absolutely be implementing systems like this so that they know exactly where their leads are coming from and have the ability to spot check your team listening to them and quality control and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. What converts app? That's awesome. The other thing I liked about that local service ads is you can turn it, like, tell when to allow the phone calls.
Yep.
So, between 8 and 4, 8 and 5, or whatever you want, to make sure someone's there to answer the phone. 100%. So that was really nice too.
Core Growth Strategies provides business growth management solutions through cloud accounting, bookkeeping, and strategic business consulting programs. Our team works with small businesses in lawn care and landscape and trade industries throughout the U.S. We increase our clients' business acumen by creating business performance transparency through financials and strategic advisement based on industry best practices and benchmarks. Our experienced team provides support, guidance, and coaching, thereby allowing our clients to connect with viable data and discover their own solutions. Core Growth Strategies programs and services are designed to get your business from where it is now to where you have always dreamed it to be. Visit us today at coregrowthstrategies.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't miss our exclusive limited time podcast special. Just mention promo code GPA Pro to any member of our team during your complimentary consultation, or enter the promo code on our site when you sign up for one of our online programs. That's promo code GPA Pro.
And another thing you talked about, Google Ads, pay-per-click, everyone knows what that is, local service ads. The next is the Microsoft pay-per-clicks, Bing, Yahoo.
Yep. Bing, Yahoo, AOL, all those search engines that basically aren't Google is all ran by Microsoft Ads. And the great thing I love about Microsoft Ads is not so many people know about it, or they know about it and they just don't care. And with the pay-per-click platforms, these are auction styles. So the more people that are there bidding on keywords, the more expensive it becomes. So when you go to a platform like Microsoft Ads that are running the ads on Bing and Yahoo and all of those others, there's fewer advertisers on there, which means your bids don't have to be as high, which means you get clicks for a lot less. And the people who search on Bing, who search on Yahoo, their money spends just as well as the people who search on Google. And I'll tell you, if your demographic is going to be older people, then you definitely want to make sure that you're on the Microsoft Ads boat. The reason for that is because most older people, they go into Best Buy or wherever and they buy their computer. And when they load up their computer at home, it's typically a Microsoft Windows computer, which means Bing is the default search engine loaded into their browser by default on the computer. And those types of people generally aren't real tech savvy, and they don't change defaults. So they just go straight with the Bing and are happy to utilize that. And you can take advantage of those placements for about half of the cost of what you're going to pay over at Google. So our average cost for Bing clicks is around the $4 cost per click, and they're going to convert at the same rate. Now, granted, there's not going to be nearly as many of them. You're only looking about maybe a third of the volume of what Google can deliver. But still, if we can get the same quality of leads for half the price, then why not?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. People buy it, they don't change and Bing, and they keep with that search engine or that whatever's installed on the computer, and they have the AOL email. Yep.
The AOL email, right? Yeah. You've got mail.
Yeah, I've emailed AOL. I'm like, wow, this is an early adopter. All right. What about Facebook and Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram can be good. This year they were a little bit shaky on as terms of results go. And what I say by that, I've been talking about contact rates. So Facebook and Instagram are owned by Meta, right? So they're both the same platform. You can run ads on both Facebook and Instagram through the same platform. Now, their cost per leads have always been better than, say, Google's, even better than Microsoft's. The average cost per lead that we typically see around Facebook, I think we want to say, I want to say off the top of my head, it's around the $25 to $35 cost per lead. So it's going to be a little bit cheaper. The problem, though, is they're generally not as high quality. And the reason is because nobody goes to Facebook and says, hey, I need to hire a lawn care company, or I need to hire a landscape company, right? Facebook monitors people based on their activity, their buying habits, and then they place them into buckets of interests. And then they allow companies to utilize that information to put their ads in front of them. So it's not like they ever told Facebook, hey, I want to buy this service. So the lower, you'll close a lot less of those. Now, what we saw this year, though, compared to previous years, was the contact rates were horrible. We would generate leads at the same cost per lead. That didn't change. But when you would reach out to the customer, they wouldn't answer the phone. They wouldn't call you back, even if you called right away. When they did answer, they had no recollection of ever requesting the information from you. And a lot of that comes down to, I think, is running Facebook lead ads, which is one of the most popular ads there. It's a way that Facebook made it easier for advertisers to collect lead data and not have to build landing pages and all of that. The reason is that you don't get sent off of Facebook. When you run that ad, somebody says, give me a quote. They click that button. Facebook automatically pulls their information, sends it over to you, and they didn't even really have to do anything. And that's why a lot of times they say, I don't remember clicking on your ad, or I don't remember filling it out, is because they accidentally clicked on it when they were scrolling through their feed and hit your button, and Facebook sent you their information. And that information is oftentimes wrong too. I'm sure half of you listening to this, if you go look at the phone number and email address you have on Facebook that you set up a decade and a half ago, it's like, oh, what the hell? I need to get in there and update this. This is super old, right? So that's what happens with the lead data. So we're combating that right now by building out new campaigns that actually send the visitor off of Facebook to the website. Now that adds a lot more friction to the process. So the cost per lead is going to increase naturally. But as long as the quality and close rate will increase with it as well, then it should all balance itself out.
Yeah. That we did some Facebook advertising, and people were saying that to us. They're like, wait, what? I just liked your ad. I didn't want a quote or anything. And we stopped because it just was creating so much friction in my office with people on Facebook. And we were not, we do this nice photos, and people were liking them, and before and after photos, and they were liking it, but they were not asking for quotes. So absolutely, we stopped that. SMS, texting and email upsells. Expand on that a little bit.
Oh, love it. This is my favorite. Now, this is more for increasing the lifetime value of your current customers versus new client acquisition. But I love this for several reasons. First of all, when you're upselling your clients, you're increasing the lifetime value across the board. So you end up bringing in more revenue to your company, and you didn't even bring in new customers. That's one of the reasons. Two, there's no real customer acquisition cost to it. They're already your customers. And this is very cheap to send out email and SMS. Typically, I think SMS, you're looking at, a cent or less for a lot of them. Email comes in massive bulk amounts for $20, $50 a month. So you can reach a lot of people for very little money. Also, when you're upselling your highest profit services, right? All these ancillary services that you sell are typically your most profitable services. So especially if you're a company that does, let's say we were talking earlier about a maintenance and a turf care company, if you do both sides, you're probably going to have more companies or more clients that are utilizing your maintenance services than utilizing your turf care services. And selling fertilization and weed control to somebody that's already using your mowing services is much easier than going out and obtaining a new fertilization and weed control customer from the internet that's not already using you. But you can also think of the other services that complement those. So let's say you do have a fert and weed customer, but you can now upsell them preventative grub. Right? These people are going to be more likely to buy aeration over seeding. These people are going to be more likely to buy your shrub and tree healthcare programs that you have. So that's one thing I love about it. Now, the best way to get results out of this strategy is to pair both email and SMS together. and utilize plain text messages. I don't recommend going to like MailChimp and using their nice, fancy graphical emails that look beautiful and pretty. You're going to spend hours building those out, and you're going to think, oh, these are lovely, I'm going to send them out. And you're going to see response rates, in that's going to be, probably under 1%, maybe a 2 or 3% open rate. So the problem is that people know that you're selling them something when it comes in like that. Our strategy that we recommend is utilize plain text. Make it look like somebody opened up Google Mail and clicked to write a new email and wrote it directly to the customer, right? Address them by name. Segment your audience so that you can mention the services that you're already providing to them. When you send a message, say, hi, Mrs. Jones, I see you already have our lawn mowing services, but I wanted to let you know that now is the time to really get started with our fertilization and weed control programs. Here's why that you should be utilizing these services. And if you're interested, you can just reach out to us, click a link, call a number, whatever the call to action may be, and we'll get you a quote over for these services. So it feels like now somebody actually took the time to send an email to Mrs. Jones, is acknowledging that she already has the service, and even throw in words like, I was just looking over your account, right? That is going to trigger a much larger open rate. It's going to trigger a much higher conversion rate. When you do email only, here's another couple of data points for you guys. When you do email only, in the method that I just mentioned, we see a 5% quote request rate. So if you sent it out to 1,000 people, 50 of them would have raised their hand, said, I want to get a quote. You should close 75 to 80% of those people is where you should be closing them, because they're already existing customers. Now, when you pair text messaging or SMS to go after the email, our recommendation is that you wait 2 or 3 minutes after the email is sent, and then you drip the text message after that references the email, telling Mrs. Jones, hey, Mrs. Jones, use your name. This is so-and-so from whoever's company. I just sent you an email regarding adding fertilization services to your current lawn mowing services. If you're interested, just reply whatever it may be that you want them to reply, or whatever the call to action is. When you pair that text message to go out just a couple of minutes later and you reference the email, we see those response rates in to request a quote, raise your hand, is skyrocketing to 12 to 15%. So a much, much higher conversion rate. The reason for it is because it's SMS. In your inbox, whoever's listening to this, take a look at your inbox. How many unread messages do you have in there? Versus your phone, take a look at your phone. How many unread text messages do you have? Right? Almost none. So everybody reads their text messages. Even if they don't respond, everybody saw it. So that's why SMS and text messaging can be extremely powerful. And this is why I love text messaging marketing so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody reads their text, even if they don't respond 100%. In emails, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable how many are just unread. Yep. So how many emails, text are enough, and how many, you just can't do it. I don't think you can just do it once a year. Is there what's the rhythm for that, or how many is enough? How many is too many?
Yep. So we've tested this pretty extensively, and what we found the sweet spot to be is once a month. Once a month. If you really want to push it, you could potentially do twice a month, but I don't recommend it. I think of it's like sea salt, right? Just use it sparingly, because people will become numb to your messages. If you are sending them something every week, like we see some clients coming in to do, people, they know you sent it last week, the week that is coming next week. It's not going to be that important. I don't think that once every few months or once a year, that's not enough, right? There is something, especially if you're in the maintenance and turf care side, there is something that you should be upselling pretty much every single month. And when you get down into the winter months where you're not really working all that much, that's when you start to educate, let people know what your season rush looks like. And if you're interested, now is the time that you should be talking to us. Don't wait until April when we're in the middle of our season rush. So if there's nothing to upsell to your customers, educate them. But you want to stay in front of them. And once a month is where we found that real sweet spot to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I unsubscribe. I hate buying stuff sometimes online because, Duluth Trading, if you ever bought any clothes from Duluth, they don't send you 2 or 3 emails a day.
Right.
I mean, it got ridiculous. And so I just unsubscribe, and it takes 3 times to unsubscribe, but it's just it was ridiculously crazy.
Yeah.
just overdone. So on the short term one I have in front of me, website live chat.
Yeah. So website live chat's another thing that we refer to as a short-term marketing approach. And the live chats are, when you go to a website and you see the little screen pop up at the bottom that says, "We're here, ask us any questions." In today's day and age, we're seeing a lot of that being bots and AI and not a real human there. I'm not referring to using bots. I'm referring to using a real person, a real human that can answer their questions, right? The way that these things work on the back end is you can have somebody in your office that just has it open on a tab. It's not like you have to sit there all the time. The software will automatically invite people to chat with you. Just make sure your sound is up. And when somebody wants to have a chat, it will put off like a ringing tone, like a ring. It's like a phone ringing. And then you can just jump over there and start chatting with them. Here's the reasons that I love it. First of all, it lets them know that there's a human that they can contact at your company. All of us get frustrated when we call companies during business hours and nobody answers the phone, right? That's the first red flag with working with these companies. So when you have a live chat person there, they already know that, hey, here's an easy way that I can talk to somebody and I don't even have to pick up the phone and call them. Which leads to my second point is when you work with Gen Zs and the younger on millennials, those guys, they don't like to use the phone, right? For those of you that's got Gen Z kids or young millennial kids or whatever is under Z now, how often do you hear them picking up the phone and talking to their friends on the phone? No, they like to text message, right? Or WhatsApp or whatever other apps these kids are using these days. So if you have a younger demographic, that's in the 20s, early 30s, then a live chat is that perfect breach between a text message and talking to somebody on the phone, because they're not really talking to you, right? It's almost like a text message for them, right? Because they're on their phone just typing onto their phone, but it also gives them what they also want, which is their instant gratification, right? Gen Zs and young millennials, they hate to wait, right? They don't want to wait. They want instant responses, but they don't want to pick up the phone for that instant response. So that's what a live chat is perfect for. Another thing that I love live chat about is you can have one person in your office on multiple chats. So, if you've got one office person, you've got 3 phone calls coming in, they can't pick up 3 phone calls. They can't talk to 3 people at once. 2 of those are going to go to voicemail. They're going to get put on hold, however you have it set up. When it's on live chat, you can have all 3 of those going simultaneously, talking to all of them and jumping in between, because there's the time in between where they have to write up a response to you and see your response. So there's a nice interface for it. So when you're in the back end, you're typing on a computer and it's going live to the people. There's full data reporting on it, so you can see where people come from, how long chats last, how long it takes you to answer, all of those types of things. So I call live chat a website live chat on the short-term marketing side, not because it's going to generate new leads for you, but it's going to help you close leads, a lot more of your leads, and a lot faster.
And, if you're in a small market, like I'm in a small market, if we're doing that, I guarantee you we'll be the only lawn care company that they dealt with that day that was doing that. So it really puts the only small business they've dealt with that is doing that, unless it's a car dealership.
Absolutely. And even better, one of those things that a lot of people don't know is live chat's free in most places. So like we recommend a company called Talk.to, TAWK.to. We're actually a partner with them. You can actually go see a video that they actually sent a film crew out to my office and filmed for us, because a lot of our clients, it's actually built right into our program, where my team actually handles the live chat services for you. But they sent a crew out to us and filmed about how we're utilizing their software. But anybody can go in there, set up a live chat account. It takes one little code to drop onto your website, and then you control everything else from their back end. And it's 100% free, no cost to you whatsoever.
Wow. That sounds like a winner.
Absolutely.
Wow. All right. So long term, we have SEO, content creation, organic media, social media, review building, link building, Google Business Profile. So I'm a huge fan of Google Business Profile. Oh, yeah. Give us a little bit of info on that.
So Google Business Profile is the best organic approach that you can take. Google Business Profile plays into a couple of different things. So first, the easiest one is your knowledge graph profile. So when somebody does a Google search for your company, you see your company pop up on the right. It's got your reviews and all those things. That's your Google Business Profile. This is a free profile that you can set up. But the more important reason for having the Google Business Profile is that's how you show up in the map results. So everybody's done a search for lawn care near me, landscaping near me, whatever, plumbers near me, whatever service you want near me. And you see the 3 companies that show up next to the maps. This has a huge placement. It takes up a lot of real estate on Google's front page, and it is the #1 click section of any of the other placements on Google. Now, the trick to this, though, is it's not real easy to rank there. And there's a couple of things that are going to play into your rankings. #1 is going to be proximity. So Google likes to show people that are close. So if you live, like, for example, I live in Tampa. If you're on the east side of Tampa and my office is on the west side of Tampa, people on the east side I'm not going to get pulled up because my proximity is too far away from them, no matter how strong my authority is, no matter how many reviews I have. Generally speaking, we see that you're limited to a few miles around the address that is listed on the Google Business Profile. Years ago, you could cover an entire city with these. This change has really come into play over the last 1 to 2 years. And so we've seen a lot of clients that had strong visibility there before that have seen a decrease in the amount of leads that they're getting because Google has put this proximity limit on these listings. Now, other ways that you're going to be able to optimize your listing, though, outside of the proximity, because there's still going to be lots of different companies within several mile radius. First of all, you want to make sure that your profile is fully optimized. So having filled out all of your phone numbers, your descriptions, your company name. Don't try to stuff your company name with keywords that people are searching for. That's a myth. That is not really going to help you. All that's going to do is get you in trouble eventually, because all it takes is for one of your competitors to go on there and say that their name is not really Toney's Lawn Care Tampa, right? Tampa is not part of it. It's just Toney's Lawn Care. And that's going to get me suspended from there, and I'm not getting back on there. So you don't want to stuff your name with keywords that you think people are going to be searching for. Fill out all your services, all the service descriptions. We actually use their product section. A lot of people don't do this. So there's products and there's services. We want to put your services in the products as well, because with products, we can link to a page on your website. You can put a photo to go along with it and other things like that. Now, these are all more of one-time type things that you put into there. And you want to check to make sure that Google doesn't automatically add stuff, because they have a tendency to do that. But ongoing, you're going to want to publish content there. They enable you to post content. I recommend that you're posting a minimum once a week on there. But you can post more often than that if you like. But at a bare minimum, you should be posting at least once a week on your Google Business Profile. You're also going to want to put new media on your Google Business Profile. You can put photos, you can put videos. I recommend that you update them at least once a month. You can do it more often than that, but once a month should be your bare minimum that you should be updating it. You'll want to respond and build reviews. So reviews are, I would say, your second biggest impacting factor to rank you higher. So proximity is #1. Your reviews are going to be #2. And not just how many reviews do you have. It's going to be your total amount of reviews. It's going to be, though, your consistency in building them. And what is your overall rating? Where you see articles out there that may say that your negative reviews don't impact your rankings, that's a myth. They absolutely will impact your rankings. If you are getting negative reviews, Google will pull you down and will not show you in those map pack results. So you want to consistently build reviews all the time and get positive reviews. After you get the reviews, you want to make sure that you're responding to all of those reviews. And what's interesting about this is Google actually has published a support doc that you can search for, and they tell you all of this right from the horse's mouth, that these are the things that you need to be doing to make sure that your listing can be optimized more. Another thing that's going to impact that is going to be what they call their offline prominence. So they're going to be looking at things like news articles or engagements from other physical entities throughout the cities that prove that you are that you have an offline presence as well, that you're not just some lead gen profile that was built there. So those are some of the things that are going to help move the needle, but those are things that you have to consistently do all the time. Google Business Profile Optimization is not a one and done. If you treat it like that, then you may see some visibility right at first, and then you'll start falling backwards, kind of like SEO.
Yeah, it definitely is not a one and done. It is a weekly, we do an update weekly. And we also, post pictures once a month and a number of other things, right? And Google wants to see outside your shop. They want to see your trucks. They want to see people. They want to see your team. They want to see customers and paying attention to that. So it can be a lot of work just keeping up with your Google business profile to do that. Absolutely. And, writing the articles, they want, at least a certain amount of words. You just, they don't want a short description of 8 words if you're posting your updates. They want some content that's good for the viewers. So out of everything that we just talked about, how can your company help someone who's in need of a serious marketing company like yours?
Right. So one thing that's different about my marketing agency versus some of our competitors that are in this space or other marketing agencies is that we don't offer a la carte options, right? You see your competitors out there, maybe you have a buddy that owns a business and is just killing it online, right? And you go ask them, what are you doing that's killing it online? And there is no one thing that does it, right? There is no silver bullet in all of this. The analogy that I always use here is about collecting change, right? Collecting change over time can definitely turn into a lot of money. But when you look at that pile of change that you have, that's maybe a couple $100, what coin in there is making the difference, right? There is no coin in there that makes a difference. It's all of them put together that turned this into a result. I also like to use the analogy of building a fire. If you've ever talked to me regarding short-term and long-term. So when you're building a fire, using gasoline is your short-term stuff. That gasoline is going to burn up. You're going to get a fire right away. You're going to get a lot of heat, but that gas is going to burn up. And if you want that fire to keep going, you got to keep dumping more and more gas on it. Whereas these long-term things like your SEO, that's like your wood. But like building a real fire, you can't just put a lighter under wood and it catches right away. You have to consistently keep the flame there until that wood starts burning. And once that wood starts burning, that's what creates a sustainable fire. And you can then still utilize gasoline at any point in time to get flare-ups in certain areas or whenever you may need it. But when you come to a company like mine, Lawnline Marketing, we focus on both sides of it. And that's one reason why we have some requirements to work with us. We only work with companies that are doing at least $1 million a year, but most of our companies are multi-million dollars. Our average company is about 6 to 7 million a year. And the reason that we have those requirements are for 2 things. One, when we focus on both the short term and long term, that's a lot of services that we have a lot of moving parts that we have to manage. So there's a lot of labor there. That's why there's more expensive costs that are associated with it. But 2, when you execute a strategy like that properly, it's not a question of are you going to get results? It's a question of how much is your results going to look like, and is this something that you can absorb? So when you're a company, let's say that you're only at 200,000 a year, and you have maybe a couple of guys that are helping you. What's going to happen if I drop 300 leads a month on top of you, right? That's gonna sink your business, and that's what we're really good at. So we don't focus on just one individual piece. We focus on putting everything together to develop a sustainable lead generation system for you that you don't always have to rely on one side or the other. So that's a little bit about our services and how we execute it and why we have those restrictions on the clients that we're willing to work with.
And the other part of Lawnline Marketing is I've met a number of your team. I mean, they know so much about marketing and data and, how to help the clients. And there's so much transparency in what you guys do. I've dealt with some other marketing companies where they literally said to me, oh, it's, this is internet. These are internet words. We're not going to, it's kind of like voodoo behind the scenes. And because I don't think they knew what they were talking about, but your team is so knowledgeable and so transparent with the numbers and everything. And I was super impressed with that. And I know you're working with a few of my close friends who have sizable lawn care businesses. And, these guys are pretty serious players and they only work with serious people. So, kudos to you for working with them, because I know they're demanding and they expect results.
And I appreciate that. And thank you. And I want to speak to the transparency. We are very transparent. So we track all the data. Everything is open and reporting. We track where every single lead comes from, what your cost per lead is on every single platform. And you have full access to log in and see all that information. You can see your rankings that we track those every day organically. So you know exactly where you are. But the reason we do that is, I do love to be transparent. Don't get me wrong. But the reason we do that is because marketing agencies are often looked at like mechanics, right? Can we really trust that? When you go to get your car worked on, oh, I wouldn't drive it out of here if I were you, right? And it makes you think, well, hell, I mean, I'm not going to put my life in danger here. I'm going to have to pay these thousands of dollars for whatever service that they're trying to sell me. Most people out there driving cars are not mechanics. Most people running businesses are not marketing experts. And so you try to rely on these people. And unfortunately, there are more bad marketing agencies out there than there are good ones. So we have to break down those barriers that people have up from being burned by previous marketing agencies through transparency, through education, right? That's why I'm so involved in the lawn and landscape industry, is not because that's the industry that I serve. But if you've ever spoke with me, watched me speak on stage or anything like that, I am all about education, because I want people to be as informed as they possibly can be. I know, like what we talked about at the beginning of this show, you can't spend your entire days learning about marketing, but you can know some of the basic stuff that you should be able to talk to your marketing agency about and find out whether this is an actual marketing agency that knows what they're doing, if they're going to be transparent with me and they're going to lead me in the right direction, versus just take my money and tell me I need to do this or that, and I don't really see the results out of it, nor do I even know if the results are there.
Right, absolutely. And we've all spent a ton of money without knowing that they weren't tracking. They were just, and then the excuses come up. Oh, you just didn't spend enough money. But they can't give you any information. It's very frustrating. It's the same thing in lawn care. We're very honest with people. We're like, hey, your lawn is really not in good shape. It's not going to take 3 applications. This could take 2 years.
Right.
We have to get your pH right. We have to reseed the lawn, and that can't be done until the fall. We have to get your nutrient level up. So, you're not going to be able to put down 2 applications and make that empty promise. So, yeah, we're all about the long term and transparency too. It's actually the easier and best way to do business, I found. And it works in the long run and the short run.
Just like I told you earlier here on this show when we were talking about SEO, if you're in a competitive market and you don't have a lot of authority, you could be looking at a year of investing into SEO. I'm going to be transparent with you, because I'm not looking to churn and burn clients. I'm looking to create partnerships here, and I don't control the market, right? I don't control Google's algorithms. I just understand them, and it's my job to help you understand what that's going to look like and how that's going to impact your business. So by me telling you, hey, I can get this done in 3 months when I know it's going to be 12, simply because I know you don't want to pay 12 and you want to see it in 3, I'm not going to take your money for 3 months and then you fire us, right? I'm going to be as transparent as I can so that you understand what you're about to get yourself into and what that's actually going to look like as far as time, as far as costs. And we're going to set those expectations realistically, and hopefully we can over deliver.
Yeah. And like I said, I talked to a number of your team members, and everyone has that same message. Everyone understands what they're doing, what the mission is at your company, why they're doing it, and who they're doing it for, which is, kudos to you for making that fabric of transparency and mission throughout your whole organization. So if you want to get a hold of Toney, we're going to put it down in the show notes. It's Lawnline Marketing. I don't know if this is going to drop after or before the GIE, which is coming up in October, but we'll see you there. It's a few weeks, huge show. If you can't make it to the GIE this year, try to make it next year or the following year. It's really a great place to go, meet people, see what's happening in the green industry, and it's just a great learning and networking experience. Well, Lawnline Marketing, Toney Ricketts, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate all your time and everything that you've shared. It was really a wealth of knowledge.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you for having me on. And I will be in person at the GIE Quip Expo here in a couple of weeks. So if you are there, stop by in person, meet me, and I'd be happy to dive deeper in any questions that you may have with some one-on-one time.
Thanks, Toney.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast,
the show that digs into the challenges of growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit.